Everyone, welcome back to a thrilling episode of the Real Estate Paradox. I'm your host, Jake. Some of you probably never actually heard my name, so that's it. It's not Jack, which is what people like to call me in comments sometimes. Thanks for that. Today's video is going to be kind of a continuation of what we were talking about in the previous video. It's going to be frequently asked questions, but this time on buying a house. And there was about 10 of these, so I'm going to break this into two parts. This will be part one. Part two will be the next video that we do. Before we get into it, if you guys like what you see here, you can subscribe to the channel, drop us a comment. I run a real estate company. It's called 1911 Syndicate. It was, well, I don't know, I feel weird saying this, but it was kind of cool. We actually got featured in an article a few weeks ago on the 7 most interesting people in the real estate industry in 2022. That was kind of cool. You know, it's not every day that happens. I disagree. I'm certainly not in that list of 7 people because there was actually some very legit people in there. Then there's a photo of me with like a rifle or something, and I'm like, I don't know how the hell I made that list, but kind of funny. So anyway, 1911syndicate.com. You can go to that if you need real estate help. Basically anywhere in the U.S., let us know. Okay, sorry for all the plugs. FAQ on buying a house. What is the first step in buying a home? Really, the first big step is going to be to figure out, can you buy a home, right? So it's going to come down to the financing of it. To go talk to a lender and whether to really go through a proper pre-approval process or based on your timeline. If you're saying, hey, it's 6 months out that I'm interested in buying something, but I'd like to know, is that going to be possible? Cool. 6 months out, you don't really need to do a formal pre-approval because there's no point. But you want to do kind of a soft pre-approval, right? To talk to a lender, right? And just say, hey, what do you need to know now so that we know how I'm looking in terms of buying a home 6 months from now? That's really the first thing. And then if the lender goes, okay, cool, based on what I'm seeing and you know what you've submitted to me or told me or whatever, you know, you're looking at about 350 grand on your purchase price, great. The next step I would recommend before you even really need to talk to an agent, to be honest, is to just go play around on the internet a little bit on some of the real estate websites. Don't submit your contact information to them, please. I'm saying this for your benefit. But just to go to the sites and poke around. Just say, hey, within 350 grand, can I get anything that I would want to buy? Or is this a scenario of, okay, I'm not interested in any of those places and I'm gonna spend the next 2 years of my life hustling and getting my credit better and making more money so that my budget can be 450, which is what I need to, you know, spend, right? That's what I would recommend. That's for me what would be your first step. Next question. Should I sell my current property before buying a new one? A lot of that's going to depend on circumstance, and because if you think about it like this, if you don't buy or sell your house before you buy the new one, there will be an overlap of payments, right? There's going to be a period of time, let's just say 90 days, for example, where, hey, I'm going to have 2 payments, right? Because I need to buy the new house, move into it, then get my old house sold. Let's just say that takes 90 days. Okay, cool. Like, can I float those 2 payments for the next 90 days? And the other variable would be this. Can I even buy the new house without selling my house? For many people, the answer is going to be no, because where's your down payment coming from, right? You're going to look at it and go, well, you know, that 100 grand that I was going to make when I sold my house, that was going to be my down payment on my new house, and without that 100 grand, I can't buy the new house. So chances are for most of you, the answer is going to be, yeah, you're going to want to not even try to sell your house before you buy the new house, but run both in a parallel timeline. Typically what I would recommend is, okay, use the same agent for both because it's going to be way easier for you. Let's get your house listed. This is the rough framework of it. Let's get your house listed. Once it is under contract, that's the go moment of great. Go, we need to start shopping for your new house now. Now, we don't know if your house that you're selling is going to get through the inspection process and the appraisal process. We don't know. But the overwhelming odds are it will, right? We will sort out whatever little hiccups come in this and it will be fine and we will sell your house. So from the time your house got under contract, hey, it's about a 30-day window before your house is going to close. Therefore, we got to get hustling on that new house that you want to buy. And my goal would be in selling your house to just build into the negotiation of that, my guys are going to ask for a 2-week period of time after the sale closes before they have to be out of the house, right? That way, essentially what we're looking at is, hey, we've got about your house gets under contract. Great, we've got about a 2-week window now to try to go get your home that you're gonna buy under contract, because it's gonna close after that, because now your timelines will sync up. Your house is gonna close in 30 days on the sale, right? You've gotta be out within 2 weeks, and within that 2-week period, hopefully is when your house that you are buying closes, and now you gotta hustle and get the hell out of the house that you just sold into the house that you just bought. That's what I would recommend. It can be tricky. I'm not saying it's not tricky, but I'm just saying someone with a little bit of logistical skill and like planning and plotting should be able to agent their way through that with you. That would be my 2 cents. Should I do a home inspection on buying a house? Absolutely, no questions asked, and it shouldn't even be questionable. The only caveat would be if it's new construction. If it's on a new construction house, personally, no, I would not. Because look, the cities come, right, because all the permitting process and all that kind of stuff, in order to get the certificate of occupancy from the city, which would be really the last thing that happens before you move into the house, the city inspector is going to walk through and make sure that everything's good to go. He's not an inspector, but he kind of sort of is. So on new construction, no, I would not do a home inspection. On any other home, absolutely, yes. And in some cases, it's required, right? If it's an FHA or a VA loan, it's going to be required. It's a non-option, okay? Should I do a final walkthrough? Often, yes. Here's the only reason I would say it depends, is if your final walkthrough, by a default of just how the timeline's going to shake out, like, hey, is the final walkthrough happening at a time where nothing's really changed? AKA the sellers haven't moved out now. All their furniture's still in there, and like, you're almost like, what's the point? Like, the house is no different than the day that I put it under contract. Maybe I don't need to do a final walkthrough. But if they've gotten all their stuff out, they've moved out, and I've got a chance to do a final walkthrough before we sign those final papers, right, to close on the house, yes, then I would suggest do a final walkthrough. So it's just going to depend, you know, and that's almost like a 50-50 scenario. Sometimes they've already moved out, and you can do that final walkthrough, check it out, did they damage anything on the way out? And sometimes it's like, well, we're moving out once the sale closes, so there's really no point in doing a final walkthrough because nothing's changed. What's the difference? Unless they decided to just trash your house, but you know, that's up to you. Ultimately, it's up to you is the answer. Last question for this episode: how does earnest money work? It's probably going to be a little bit different state to state, so I'll just give you the example in Utah. Earnest money is not required. It is an elective thing, but it is something that if you don't do, it's going to look really bad and it's going to hurt your chances of getting an accepted offer. I described earnest money like good faith money. In Utah, this is just how I describe it to clients. It doesn't really matter for a period of at least a couple of weeks. Okay, so we get the house under contract. We said we were going to put down $5,000 in earnest money. Typically, the amount of earnest money is ballpark 1% of the purchase price. So on a $500,000 home, put down about $5,000. That's the rule of thumb. And that's got to be turned in within 4 days of going under contract. But it is completely refundable all the way through the due diligence deadline, which for us on an average deal is going to be anywhere 10 to, call it, 14 days. Hey, so if we cancel because we do the inspection on day 8, right, and the due diligence deadline's on day 10, and we want to cancel because it turns out the house sucked, no problem. Like, the earnest money is completely refundable, not an issue whatsoever. After the due diligence deadline is now where it starts to become negotiable. We typically have about this 1-week period between the due diligence deadline and the financing and appraisal deadline, where I determine in the contract, hey, well, is any of that earnest money now non-refundable, or is all of it non-refundable? Is all of it refundable? You know, it's really up to what is written in that contract. And I would write into that contract that number based on what the market is like at that time period. If it's really aggressive and it's a, you know, an intense seller's market, yeah, you're going to want to have some of that earnest money be non-refundable to you as the buyer. But if it's a buyer's market, chances are I'm putting zero, aka like the sellers get $0 if we cancel after the due diligence deadline. Now, after the financing and appraisal deadline, then it is per our contract, all goes to the sellers if we cancel. Because it's like, hey, you fit the threshold where we're probably 3 weeks into this thing, and if you cancel, your earnest money is now gone, right? And that's just how our contracts are written in Utah. You could probably write addendums around that, but I would not really suggest it. So that's part one. You guys can chime in if you got any other questions. We got a few more questions we'll cover in part two on whenever we post the next video. But again, if you guys need real estate help, let us know. This is what we do. It's a non-pretentious real estate company. That's what we try to run, because it can really be a kind of an industry that's, I don't know, you know, you just don't enjoy some of the players in the industry. So we try to not be that guy. That's our goal. So if you need help, 1911syndicate.com. We'll see you guys next time.